is Sherry Hayes with MomDelights.com, and hey, I'm back talking more about practical ways to drastically save on your grocery budget. Last time we talked about the spiritual kind of emotional foundation for saving money on groceries, and I hope you will, if you didn't listen to it, listen to it because you're gonna love it. It's gonna really bless you. So, but today we're gonna do in like brass tacks. We're gonna get down to the details, right? Okay, so I'm gonna talk about lots of this stuff you are just like common sense stuff, and you may know it, but some of this stuff maybe you didn't know about. And if you have anything else that I am missing that I don't cover, please remind us all of it in the comments. And you know, I learn stuff all the time. I love learning new things. Okay, so number one, I'm going to talk about throwing out the stuff in our lives that make us want for more expensive stuff, more fancy, whatever. Like quit watching Food Channel stuff, or you know, those videos that pop up in your feed on YouTube and Instagram and everything. That, like, you know, like it's the chef and he's pouring that oil and and they've got the arugula and the capers and all them fancy things in there, and you're thinking, wow, I must not be feeding my kids right because, you know, I don't have this and that and the other thing, and we're just like eating very basic things, and I never see those. You know, if you look up, like, okay, I like to do lunch packs for the kids, like for lunch. You know, I have a thing on my blog about homeschool lunch ideas, and it's like basically bento boxes for homeschooling. So like look on Pinterest for bento box ideas, and it's all crazy expensive stuff, and it's stuff like little kids wouldn't eat anyway. I mean, I know we're supposed to be like all healthy and all green and everything, but I'm telling you, a lot of kids, they're just not into it. Some kids love vegetables and fruits and they'll just eat them like crazy. Other kids will pick and go, ew, what's in that? What's in here? Oh, there's weird things in this food. You know, so you have to keep it very basic. Like, noodles are separate from broccoli, is separate from meat, but you don't put them together, right? And so, you know, the more we look at those things that show us that we should be like, you know, chefing it up and everything, then we feel bad because, you know, we're just doing basic stuff. So you got to kind of put that over here and stay away from it for a while. If you can find someone that cooks really practical stuff, yeah, you can watch that. That'll encourage you, but otherwise, when you're really trying to cut your budget, that's the last thing you want to do is think about how you're not doing everything, right? And especially like if you start cooking more from scratch, what we'll be talking about, you can't take the time. Like a lot of the foods that people use, if they're going to do chef it out, you know, they have those meals brought in and already have everything like cut up and set up for yourself. That costs a lot of money to have that done. That it's not necessary. You can do it yourself, okay? But in order to do that, you have to keep things simple and basic, okay? All right. Next thing I'm going to talk about is the pyramids and pie charts about all the things you're supposed to be having, okay? Now, we want variety. Because when you have variety in your diet, you're more likely to get all the vitamins and minerals and proteins and carbohydrates and all that kind of stuff, right? Oh, also the diets, the special diets like, you know, the paleo and all that kind of stuff. Unless you have an actual dietary restriction, okay? Like if you have someone, like we have a person that can't handle gluten, okay? And so that's different. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, you know, whatever the faddish kind of things, like you should avoid this, you know, and it just changes every season, right? When I was a kid, you never, ever, ever ate butter. So everybody ate margarine. Yeah, I mean, it was crazy. It was like, oh, I'm reducing my butter intake, you know, and then nobody ate bacon. Well, you know, the reason that fat sucker got a heart attack because he ate bacon for breakfast, you know, and they would make fun of it, and it was like, how dare you have an egg? Don't you care about your family, you know? And now it's like, whoa, wait a minute, back up the truck. Butter, wonderful for your body. Yes, have some bacon, and eggs are amazing. So, and it also depends on who you're talking to, right? But pretty much the medical establishment, I have stopped listening to them about nutrition many years ago because they can't make up their minds. And what they base nutrition on is like hocus pocus. They say it's research, and then you go and you find out, well, then there's research to the opposite of that, so who knows, right? Like they don't know if cholesterol is linked to heart stuff, or if heart stuff is linked to cholesterol. They don't know. They just know that it's present when you have heart stuff, and they don't know why. So when you realize that, you go, well, that makes me think a little bit, doesn't it? So what we do then is you just throw all that baloney out. And you go back to the basics, and you go, okay, so we're going to have protein, complete protein. And we're going to have some carbohydrates and some fats. Oh, yes. And we're going to have some veggies and maybe some fruit. Fruit is not actually essential to your diet. Yeah. But that's kind of the order. So if you have that and you kind of, like, okay, here's another thing too. You don't have to have all these things at every meal, all right? Like you could have some grains in the morning, just total grains. And then at lunch you could have like total carbs. And at dinner you could have total proteins and veg. And guess what? In your whole day you've got all those things, but you just didn't do it. Especially with little kids, this gives you so much. You can sigh with relief, because otherwise, I just can't get him to sit and eat all these things at one meal. I have to do it simple, and we have to have one thing at a time. And it's okay. It's okay, because you want to have a variety, not because you have to mark off your chart. And I've seen all the pie charts. I've seen the one where, you can only have this much carbohydrate, as much as your fist, and like little tiny person, oh my goodness, their fist is little. That's all the carbohydrate they're gonna, baloney. Okay? I mean, I know that people are saying, oh, I want to lose weight, I want to lose weight, I want to lose weight, I want to lose weight. Well, just don't play so many video games and snack. There you go. Then you're probably going to lose weight for kids, I'm just saying. But not every kid's like that either. There have always been fat kids. I know I'm not supposed to say that, but there have always been like one or two kids that are just fat. I mean, just how it is. It's just who they are. It's not like they sit and gorge themselves all day. Sometimes it's just like, I can eat a sandwich and it just whoosh, like that, and this other person can eat a sandwich and sticks right on them, right? So, just saying, a lot of the stuff that we're hearing is not true, and we don't have to live there. Let God lead you and use common sense. Okay, now that I've got off my soapbox, let's go to the next thing. Now, I'm going to say something that, I think a lot of us already know this, but you got to think grains. Think about the families that, the nations where they had the large families. Like we're thinking like in Asia and in Italy and different places where we know they had large families, And think about the major part of their diets is grains, whether rice and farina in the form of pasta and bread. That was big. Why? Because the breads and the grains, they feed people cheaply, okay? And you can make a lot of it. You can make a lot of rice, you can make a lot of noodles, and they will fill people's stomachs, and they will give them energy, and they will give them a bit of protein, maybe not a complete protein, but there is protein there, and there's B vitamins, and there's vitamin E, there's all kinds of good stuff in grains. Okay, so grains are not evil. Grains are our friend, okay? Maybe for some, somebody maybe like me, maybe some people have said, well, if I stay away from grains, then I'm not going to gain weight. But then somebody else says, no, that has nothing to do with it. Whatever. Right now we're trying to feed our families. We're trying to make sure they have good nutrition, and so grains are our friend. Now, brown rice with a husk on is more nutritious than, white rice. But here's another thing maybe you didn't know, is that parboiled rice is like white rice, but it has lots of the nutrition of the husk of the grain, of the whole grain, that's kind of annealed into it. It's kind of baked into the rice. So you're actually getting more natural nutrition from parboiled rice than you would from just plain white rice, which is basically everything stripped off the grain of rice, and then they spray some vitamins on top of it. Okay, so there's just something, little side thing there. But anyway, so grains are important. Now, whatever grain you can find, grains also, if you get them in their grain form, and they're not like cut or rolled or put into flour, they will last a long time. Yeah, like someone said that, like in the pyramids, where they buried the Egyptian princes, the King Tut and all that, they found some wheat grains that sprouted. Yeah, so wheat in its grain form, if it's kept right, it will last a lot longer than the flour. And the same is like for rice and everything. Well, brown rice deteriorates faster than white rice, but it's really good to think of stocking up on grains. When you can, while you can, when it's on sale, if you can buy it in bulk. Grains will and on pastas. Well, we will talk about that in a minute. But any grains will and flour. If you have to do some flour, flour is good to have because it's so adaptable. You can make it into so many different things. You can make your own noodles, So flours are really good. They don't last as long, but and if you can get yourself like some wheat berries in a grain mill, that's always good too. So anyway, think grains. All right. Now, I have number 4, and this is like an attitudinal adjustment, is that you have to be adaptable. Okay, so when you go to the store and you're used to, and you probably already do this stuff, okay, so forgive me. I'm probably preaching to the choir, but, don't get stuck on brands. Don't get stuck on, like, mayonnaise is one thing that can be, or mayonnaise or dressings or a certain type of sauce or a certain type of meat. Or, like you have to say, well, I can't really afford that. Like, here's the thing. Mayonnaise, the best mayonnaise comes in a little jar like that, and it's going to be like $4 or $5. But the store brand's only $2.50, right? So I'm going to buy the store brand. Even though, I don't know, maybe it won't be as creamy, maybe there's a little bit off, I'm going to get the store brand, baby, because then with that other $2.50 that I'm saving, I can do something else, right? So you have to be adaptable, and that's very important, and you have to teach your kids. This is going to be good for your kids to know how to be adaptable in their lives, that even if they don't have everything like they're expecting to, that they can still enjoy things, and they can, just being thankful. And being adaptable, a lot of it has to do with being thankful for what you have, teaching thankfulness, and that goes with the whole thing. And if you can inculcate that into your kids by being an example yourself, right? Then if you're an example of this, your kids are automatically going to get into it with you. Maybe not. Maybe you'll have to do some corrective measures, because kids have to learn this stuff, okay? They have to learn that you have to be thankful in life. Even if you don't have everything you want, God will always give you what you need. And there's a difference there, right? Okay. Now, here is another area that we need to be looking at. It's kind of like in the same vein, is that everybody's been doing the organic thing. And when you're reduced in your buying power for what you can buy for your family, the organic thing really has to go out the window. And there are reasons for that. Why do they charge so much for organic stuff? That's a question we can all ask. Some of us might be thinking that when we buy organic fruits and vegetables, we're giving our kids fruits and vegetables without pesticides, and therefore it's healthier. Well, I'm going to suggest to you something different, and that is that the fruits and vegetables that are grown organically, first of all, how do we know it's truly organic? Someone certified it, but that's always questionable, number 1. Number 2, if you're going to be able to grow fruits and vegetables that will last through the process of being picked, being thrown in a bin, being put in a truck, being stored, being taken to they're all that kind of jiggling and juggling around, then you have to have hybridized fruits and vegetables that are in themselves impervious to like insects and mold and all that. So when you do that, you hybridize a fruit or a vegetable that really is harder for your body to assimilate. I'm just saying, because if you think about the pesticide and the fungicide and everything is inherent in the fruit itself, either in its skin or in its makeup. It has to repel pests and molds and all that, and it has to do that in itself. So when you bite into that fruit or that vegetable, it's all the way through, okay? Now, we don't like pesticides, we don't like everything like that. I know in general, some are better than others, okay? But when you purchase like an apple, an orange, whatever, you can wash and scrub that pesticide off of the outside. But the fruit or vegetable itself is not necessarily filled with that pesticide. I mean, I'm not, an expert, but I've actually read studies on this, and they've proven that, yeah, you can scrub it off, and it's really better for you than the organic version. Believe it or not. I know it sounds crazy, but anyway, something you can investigate anything anyway, and it's something, if that's what you have to do, you're gonna have to just buy the old bag of apples at the store, then this is something to think about. Just take those apples and just scrub them, and it's not gonna be perfect, We have to look at what God says in His Word. He says that if everything received with thankfulness, right? That makes it good. Did you know that? It's not about whether it's good in itself, but when we receive it with thankfulness, that makes it good because we're mixing it with faith. And our faith activates the good that's in that. Now, I'm not talking about eating Fritos all day and saying, I've exercised my faith. These Fritos, like Tim Hawkins says, will turn into a carrot when I swallow them. Not like that. No. But, we have to exercise our faith and believe that God is bigger. The Bible says that as believers, no deadly thing shall harm you. You shall trample on snakes and scorpions, right? Remember Paul the Apostle, when he went to that, here they were shipwrecked on this island, and he was like getting firewood, and a snake attached itself to his hand or his arm, and he flung it off, and he did not die. And the people of the island were just amazed, because that was a very poisonous snake that they knew that lived on that island, and he didn't have any effects. He didn't swell, he didn't do anything. And they were amazed, and that's because of God's promises. And so when we look at food and we look at all these hazards and all this kind of stuff, we have to remember that God's promises are true no matter where we find ourselves. Jesus was talking to people that, they had food. Can you imagine the kind of bacteria and awful things that were in foods when Jesus was talking to them? Okay, I'm just saying, we got to have faith while we're doing all of this. We can exercise our best ability to try to do the best we can, and then it's like, keep doing your best, pray that it's blessed, and Jesus takes care of the rest. So there. Okay. Now, cook from scratch if you want to save money and have healthy food. Okay, so here's the thing I want to get across. Now, if you have very little to spend, or your buying power is reduced greatly, and you go to a store, you can buy a lot of junk with your money and save money and think you've done a really good thing. I'm thinking here, like, the cheap boxes of macaroni and cheese, right? Yeah, okay. But if you can save close to the same amount if you make it yourself from scratch ingredients. Take a loaf of bread. Okay. So if you were to go to a store and buy a loaf of bread, the cheapest loaf of bread, it's going to have a lot of junk in it. Okay, and you're paying only like $1 for that loaf of bread. I can get a loaf of bread for whole wheat supposedly bread for $1. But you look on the ingredients list and you're going, that is really long and I can't pronounce those words, right? Whereas I could take my own flour, my own yeast, and my own water, and a little bit of brown sugar, and I can make a delicious loaf of bread. And I pay like a fraction, maybe 25 cents, maybe, to make that loaf of bread, right? And I know everything that went into that bread. I saved money, and I gave my people something that's better for them. And pretty much it's that way with everything. You can get the cheap like meals, and like think about a burrito, right? You can get pre-made burritos, and you're going to pay anywhere from 75 cents to $1 per burrito. And over that sometimes, and they're frozen, and you warm it up, and it's convenient, and it happens. Sometimes you have to have that, okay? I'm not knocking that. But think about if you cooked your own beans and you made your own tortillas, how much would that burrito cost you? I'm saying like 15 cents, maybe less, right? So if you look at it like that, you could afford like 10 of those burritos for what you pay for one. And besides that, when you look at the ingredients list on those burritos, they've got all kinds of soy and everything in there, and you can make your beef or your everything. Like you can put beef in there if you want to. You can put some chicken that you make, you know, the cheapest chicken or the cheapest pork, you can put it in there and make it something really wonderful. You could grow your own tomatoes, make your own salsa and stick it in that burrito. Then you've even saved more money. And so if you look at this whole thing, cooking from scratch really makes sense and it cuts weight on your budget. You just have to be willing to spend a little more time. But there are ways even to, like if you just think every morning when I get up, I'm going to proof some bread. It's just part like when I brush my teeth or like every other day or whenever you want to do it. Then that's a totally different picture. You just kind of get used to it. Like there was a time in my life when I was cooking bread all the time. And, you know, it just became part of my routine. I didn't even think about it anymore. I had my kitchen set up to where everything that I needed to bake bread was right there. And I didn't have to like fumble around and go different places. It was right where I needed it. I can make bread easily, day after day, and it just was part of my life. And I had little tiny babies and nursings and all that kind of stuff and homeschool, everything, just like I always do. And I was still able to do it. So if I could do it, you can too. Okay. So that's cooking from scratch. So that's that. Let's go to my next item, which I can't find it. Let me look. Okay. Okay. Here's another most important thing, and that's look past the dates. Okay, so you get a gallon of milk, and it says good until, and it'll have a date like 6/3/22. So you look at that date and you go, oh my goodness, if we don't drink this by 6/3/22, then we'll just have to throw it out. No. Milk will last 7 to 14 days after the date. Did you know that? And that's especially true for things like cottage cheese and yogurt. Yogurt will last way past what they say. Now, you know, you have to taste it periodically, but you know, a really good yogurt will last past that. So what does that mean? And I mean, if you get boxes of stuff too, this is the same. Like, you know, like I went to a discount store and there were boxes of Triscuits, you know, different types, and they were like on the verge of being out of date, or maybe a month or so out of date, and they tasted just fine. They were just good as right as rain. Okay, now when they say best buy date on all this kind of stuff, what they're really saying is this product will perform at its peak until this date, and then it'll kind of start slowly going down. Now, like especially like with beans, they'll kind of start getting a little dried out, or like with crackers, maybe and some things can be rancid. I mean, you have to be careful, but in general, the best by date is negotiable, and some of it depends on, you know, if it's really super hot, things break down faster. If it's cooler, they don't. If like something got frozen and thawed, maybe it's not the best. But I got to tell you that these best by dates are not solid in stone, and lots of times it's not about it going bad after that date. It's just not its best. So that means when you go to the store, like if you go like the stores, the chain grocers, lots of times they'll either have a special place for reduced items that are like getting close to their date. You can get it for a song, and then they'll they have it for meats, they have it for dairy, and they have it for like lunch meats and cheeses and stuff. And bread. You know, you usually find that. Now, if you're going to buy bread, you want to put it in your freezer as opposed to leave it out, so because it will mold faster. But there's all kinds of ways you can save money, and they're actually, and I'm going to come to this in the discount stores. But anyway, so look past that. Be willing to try things that are past their due date, and you can save money. Okay. Okay. So I guess at this point I'll just talk about if you have a discount store, like there's usually in a grocers. Like I know they're at Walmart and at lots of chain stores, there will be a specific place where they put their Dale breads and their other items that they're trying to sell quickly, like they have too many of them or they didn't sell well, they're trying to get rid of them before they go out of date. Then you can go back there and you can usually find things for at least half off. You know, bread sometimes is more than half off, and I do that a lot. And like you can kind of, if you develop a relationship with a grocer, you can go back there and you can talk to them, and they'll tell you, well, usually we put these items out at this time of day or this time of week. And if you find that out, then you can beat the crowd and get there on that day or at that time of the day, and you can take advantage of this stuff before it's all picked over, which is something that's really, really important to know. Okay, now I'm going to talk about like boosting nutrition, because we're talking about maybe eating things that, might be past their due date, or a little cheaper stuff, maybe the nutrition isn't like the best. And so what we want to do is we want to find ways of boosting that, but in a cheap way. Now, you can say, well, I'll just do a lot of supplements. Supplements cost like crazy money, am I right? But I can tell you there are superfoods that you can buy, and you can incorporate them into your diet in different ways, and they will do better than the supplements. And one of those is blackstrap molasses. Blackstrap molasses you can put in cookies, you can put it in cakes, you can put it in your coffee. You can do all kinds of things with blackstrap molasses. You can put it in your oats. You can do all kinds of stuff with it, and it will boost the nutrition of your food. It has iron, it has vitamin C, it has magnesium, it has all trace minerals in it, and it is amazing for you. In fact, when my kids say if they have a general malaise and I can't tell what it is or something, I will just give them a teaspoon of molasses and say, oh, I have medicine, special medicine, and they'll take it. It tastes kind of a little off like medicine, so they're okay with it, but it's sweet, so they're okay. So, and gingerbread is great, and gingerbread cookies are great. Ginger snaps. Those are great ways to get molasses into your kids. Okay. The next thing is nutritional yeast, and this is like the silver bullet of all kinds of stuff. If you have kids and you're concerned they're not eating enough meat, you're concerned they're just kind of like really tired a lot. Do you know B vitamins really help us if you need red blood cells? B vitamins are important. I don't know if we know that, but they're very important. They're important for all kinds of energy. People that are really run down, they'll go to the doctor and get a vitamin B shot, perk right up. So nutritional yeast is full of B vitamins. It is so amazing. And so what I like to do, my favorite way of giving this to my children, is to put it on popcorn. Kids will eat it. It tastes like cheese on popcorn. It feels like you're eating cheesy popcorn, but it's not with all the other yuck, right? It's just like they're eating healthy, but shh. So for many years, I did not tell them that it was nutritional yeast. I told them it was special spices. And so they would do that. You can add this to sauces and soups, and let's see. The other day, I added it to something, and it really made it taste good. I can't remember what it was, but like soup is really good, and you can put it into biscuits. You can put it into so much stuff, and it will taste good, and it will help boost everything. It's like cheesy. It's wonderful stuff. But here's a caveat. Don't eat over 2 teaspoons or tablespoons a day, because it can help with the buildup of uric acid in your joints and give you gout. Yeah, so you have to, all things in moderation, right? Okay. The other thing I want to talk about, and this is not for gluten-free people. Gluten-free people can't have this, but for the rest of us, wheat germ is an amazing thing. Wheat germ has lots of vitamin E. It has all the nutrition that was supposed to go with the whole kernel of the wheat. When they process wheat, they take and they break it apart, and they break off just the starch, and then they mill that, and then they add vitamins back into it to make it healthy. Because for a while there, they were giving people the wheat flour that was processed without the vitamins, and people started getting really sick, like with beriberi and stuff, right? So what they did is they added the vitamins in, and now it's okay, and it's enriched flour. Have you seen that? But if you just can get the wheat germ, that's the part of the wheat that has all the good stuff in it. You can get that separate, and then you can add it into your cookies. You can add it all over the place into food, and into your oats in the morning, or into your bread, or all kinds of stuff. And it just boosts that energy, and it has iron in it. It has all kinds of stuff. So that's another way to do that. Chia seeds is like a new thing in my diet that I'm realizing is really important, because you can get some cheap frozen fruit like strawberries and blueberries, the cheapest frozen fruits. And we'll talk about that in a minute. And make yourself a fruit smoothie and throw chia seeds in there, and they're full of protein. Yes, protein. And so that's another booster you can just throw into things. And chia seeds also, because they kind of have they're kind of weird. They kind of have like this gelatinous outsides that when they're put with liquid, they kind of they thicken the smoothie, so it makes it more thick and fun. Yeah. So anyway, chia seeds are great. Okay, now as far as produce is concerned, we're going to do specifically produce. You want to stick with apples, bananas, and oranges. Pretty much all the blueberries on the berries and everything else is they're going to be all expensive, but apples are crazy cheaper, and bananas are cheaper, and then oranges in season can be cheaper. And you can get like in the winter time, like around Christmas and after Christmas is when oranges are the best and the cheapest. Apples in general, and I know we do this worldwide thing now where we're getting apples and oranges from all over the place. So like, it's not exactly as it used to be, but I think we're going to start returning to that more. We're going to have to think seasonal more as our supply chains get changed around. Okay. But so stick to apples, oranges, and bananas, and your kids are gonna get fruit, and it's gonna be cheaper, just in general, unless you just get a really crazy deal, which happens. Now, as far as for your fruits and vegetables, cabbage is the thing that you're gonna keep in your fridge, and it'll last a long time. And you can do coleslaw, you can do like throw it in soups, and it's really good for you. Cretaceous, is it Cretaceous? Yeah, no, I always forget the word for it. But anyway, a cruciferous. It's a cruciferous vegetable, and so it's really good for so many things. It's really good for you. Lettuce, and lettuce, different types of lettuce are okay, but lettuce in itself, it breaks down really fast. So sometimes, unless you're going to use that lettuce right away, it kind of wastes your money because it doesn't last. So you have to really plan ahead and be very careful when you're buying lettuce or salad packs with lettuce in it. Okay, onions cheap. You can get onions cheap. Red onions are the best on your stomach, but they're also the most expensive. If you cook the onions, they're usually okay for people, but not always. But you can get onions cheap. And onions, I gotta tell you, onions and peppers. If you have the cheapest food in the world and you throw onions and peppers in there, boom, it's automatically more delicious. Unless you hate those things, then everything's better. But I mean, it just, a lot of the things, if you think a lot of the recipes that are really yummy, they usually have onions and peppers in them. Just saying. Little kids, though, usually are like, oh, I can't have that, it's onions in it, so. But anyway, onions are cheap. All right, cucumbers right now, I don't know, for some reason, cucumbers are cheap. Okay, so, and then, zucchini. Everybody has zucchini in their garden. If you learn how to cook with zucchini, you're going to be good. Okay, and celery is cheap. And celery, do you know that they say that celery can cure different things with your urinary tract and stuff? It's really, really good for you. Celery is amazing stuff. So anyway, these cheap stuff that we can find, they aren't expensive. You don't have to go crazy and get like the most expensive everything in like I was saying, the chef shows, Just use the cheaper stuff. You're gonna be fine. Okay, now here's the progression though. All right, so fresh is the most expensive form of produce. And then there's frozen, and then there's canned, and then we have dried. It's kind of like in the middle. Okay, so fresh is the most expensive. It has the least amount. Not the least. It's second to least in nutrition, because you have to figure from the time it's picked and stored and transported and it gets to your store, you're having a lot of depletion of lots of the some of the nutrients like vitamin C and stuff. Okay, because vitamin C is perishable, you know that. Okay, so so that's like, it's the most expensive and it's not the best nutrition always. Okay, frozen, it doesn't always work for everything, because when you freeze something that has those little water cells in it, then the water cells burst and kind of, like if you had a strawberry and a frozen strawberry, they're not the same thing. So you have to keep that in mind. But frozen is cheaper usually than fresh, and it's more convenient because it doesn't mold in your refrigerator. It can get freezer burnt, but not very often. You can keep frozen fruits in your freezer for a long time. So it's kind of like it's more stable for you, and it's a little cheaper. And think about this: from the time they pick that fruit to the time it's frozen is a lot less time. So you're actually preserving more of the nutrition. I know, crazy, right? Now, the next is canned. Now, canned is going to be lots cheaper than fresh, and it's cheaper than frozen. But, we all know that also the nutrition is much depleted because it has to be cooked before it can be canned. And then lots of times you're sticking it in sugar. Well, not always. There's fruit juice ones, and I try to get those, but still, it's stable. It's on your shelf. No matter what happens with the economy, if the fruit goes up and down, you got some canned fruit in there, you're still going to get the benefit of some nutrition and some of the other benefits of eating fruit and vegetables. And so, and what I'm talking about, that's what I'm not talking about fruits, I'm also talking about other produce. The texture of canned fruit also is kind of a little bit different. Not everybody likes it for fresh and frozen, but you can still, like I said, you can still use it. Then dried fruit is kind of like in between all of them, kind of, sort of. Now, freeze-dried fruit is out of this world expensive for what you get. But, if you put a little water with that thing, it goes back and it's almost like fresh, okay? But it's very expensive. Then other like apricots and craisins and raisins and stuff like that, you have to wait, lots of the stuff, in order to make it look like we would really want to eat it, they have to add stuff to it, like sulfur and everything. But still, it's pretty shelf stable, some of it not more than others, but it's pretty shelf stable, and you can have it there, and you can do stuff with, it's harder to do stuff with frozen fruit, with dried fruit, but you can do it. So, and you get a lot more, I think, per pound, even though it costs more per pound. You're like, an apricot is like this, and when you shrink an apricot down, it's like this, and so you get a bag of apricots, it's like getting this much apricots, right? And so you have to kind of weigh all that together when you're buying dried. You don't want to put real grapes in a cookie, but you will put raisins in there, just saying. So that's just, you already know that stuff though, right? Yeah, you're smart, you get it. Okay. Here's one thing, like I was talking before, you get to know your grocer, get to know your grocery store, get to know the habits and when the sales go on, and you can talk to the butcher, say, I was wondering, do you know if there's going to be any sales on this or that? Or maybe say, hey, I just want to let you know there's going to be a sale on this next week, so don't buy that now, wait till next week and get it. If you develop relationships, you can find a lot, especially if you have a larger family and you buy a lot at the same time. Say, hey, I want to buy a lot of this. When's the best time to do it? And they'll share with you information. One time I was friends with this one butcher, and they had this overload of these whole chickens, and they were in these cooking bags, and they were already seasoned with all kinds of stuff. And normally a chicken that size would go for $5. These were going for $2 a piece. She called me, she goes, hey, I just want to let you know, we're getting rid of these frozen chicken things for $2. And boy, I went there and snatched me 10 of those. Brought them back and put them in my freezer, and we had really good tasting chicken for a while. So if you develop relationships with people in grocery stores, or a farmer, you can, or anything like that, just develop a relationship with someone. They will know when lots of stores, they want to get rid of stuff, and people aren't there to buy it, and so it ends up wasting. They hate that. So if you're a person that can take advantage and you have a relationship with that person, they're going to call you. So that's just something to think about. And shopping discount stores. If you have one in your area, we kind of live in a smaller area, so we have one, and it's kind of like the size of a 7-Eleven. But when I go there, I find gluten-free stuff for my daughter. Super cheap. We found a whole bunch. I didn't even know DiGiorno made gluten-free pizza, but we bought a whole bunch of DiGiorno gluten-free pizzas, and she enjoyed those for a long time. And they were maybe a third or 2/3 what I would normally pay for a gluten-free pizza, and they were amazing. And I get her bread there. I can get dairy-free milk there, and for super cheap. And so, and salad mixes, I can go in there, and when they've got them stocked up, I can get the salad mixes that cost $4. I can get them for $1.50, and so I'll do that there. And so there's just all kinds. Not everything there is good. Some of them are the same prices as store, so I don't really take advantage. But you can find stuff there. If you're a family that eats a lot of food and you eat it quickly, it's really worth your while. And if you watch Amy Marion, she lives in an area. She's like the queen of discount stores, so you can watch her and just drool and just, try to keep from being envious, right? Because jealousy is bad. Okay. And here's another way to save on groceries. Build a pantry. When you build a pantry, you've stocked up on your basic staples, so that when you want to make something, or when you run out of something, you just go to your pantry and get it. Because the less times you have to go to the store, then you're not tempted to buy something there that will bust your budget. right? Like, oh man, I didn't know they had those candies again. Let's get it. You know how you do that. Okay, and so now I'm getting close to the end. You'll be happy. Okay, cheap meats still fill bellies. Okay, so I know that, you know, beef is really, really super high, and pork is getting up there, and even chicken. But, you know, if you get the cheaper meats, and I'll give you this example. Okay, chicken breasts, skin chicken breasts, you know, I can get it as low as around $2 a pound. I can get drumsticks and thighs for $1 a pound, close to that. Half the price, right? But my kids love it. All I have to do is just throw some barbecue sauce on, stick in the oven, and they're like, delicious, right? And I get the cheap barbecue sauce, by the way. I get the $1 barbecue sauce, or wait for a sale and get it super cheap. But anyway, they will eat that all day. And it's a way to make them feel like they got an actual piece of meat, right? And the other way we can do this is like get the portions of the meat that, like, if you were to fry it, you know, it wouldn't make good steaks, but you can throw it in the crocky all day, right? And cook it to where it's really going to fall apart, and you can just make amazing things with it. You also can take that chicken breast and cook it up and cut it into little pieces and spread it about with some grain or noodles, and then everybody's had some meat, but you didn't have to use a lot of meat to make everybody feel like they had meat. And hamburger's cheap, and sometimes you can get a deal on a hamburger, and yeah, you can do a lot with hamburger. One thing too is that when I go to Sam's Club and I get their meatballs actually are an excellent deal, but you know, they have some fillers in there, right? But meatballs help you to stretch your meat and make people feel like they had this amazing meat meal when actually, you know, it wasn't completely meat. Anyway, so that's just an idea. Just use cheap meats and people can still feel like they've had a little bit, right? Buy the cheap steaks. If you buy cheap steak, let's say you got a man and every once in a while you want him to feel like, yeah, he can have a steak. What you can do is you can take the cheap stuff and take yourself a bottle of the cheapest Italian dressing, and take those steaks and like marinate them in the Italian dressing, and then freeze them individually in like little packs. And then, you know, what happens is the vinegar and stuff in the Italian dressing is going to break down the parts of the meat that would make it really tough, so that you can buy the cheapest steaks, you know, and have them cut really thin. But if you do it that way, then every once in a while he can feel like he had a piece of man meat. And you can bless him. Even if you don't have very much, you can do that. That's something I've done before. Okay, also, now here's my last tip that I'm going to come up with, and that I've come up with, and I think it's important that we remember this. This is like a little trick you can use, is that, okay, so we talk about a complete protein. It's got all of the amino acids we need to feed our body, to build muscle, and to help our brains, and do all the things we need to do. We have to have a complete protein. And what happens is, in some developing countries, what has happened is, like, they might have the rice or the millet, but they don't have another grain to mix with it, or like a legume or something, so that they only have part of the protein. And so the bodies of these little kids, that's why you see the kwashiorkor and like the darker skinned people with the lighter hair, because it's a protein deficiency. And so if you can't afford a lot of meat, or let's say they just don't want to eat meat, one way you can overcome that is to combine grains with legumes, so that you have a complete sequence of amino acids and you have a complete protein. So in other words, that's why people eat beans and rice together, or beans and cornbread. You know, like if you take a corn tortilla and you fill it with beans, you've got a complete protein. So that's something to remember when you're like doing your meals. Now, there are some grains that do have complete protein. Soy is one of them, but soy has so many, it's like poison, right? We don't eat soy as much as we can help it. But there are other grains and legumes that do have complete proteins. And I like lentils. People love lentils. I think that's a complete protein. Don't quote me on it. Yeah, lentils are something that people use. If you have split pea soup, you know, have some rolls with it, complete protein. It doesn't have to be, it's not rocket science. If you're like, you can make like a black bean salsa, or a pot of black bean refried beans, and have some corn chips with that. Complete protein, right? And so there's all kinds of stuff like that. So I have been talking quite a while. I know you probably got other things to do, but I hope this helps you. I hope this blesses you. I hope you never forget that it's God's good pleasure to give you the kingdom, and that, as we trust Him through these times, we are going to learn more about our walk with Him and about His preciousness in our lives. And I hope you have a wonderful day. Please like and subscribe. Bye-bye.